Pathmonk is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, over 98% of website visitors don't convert. The ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition online. Pathmonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where they are in the buying journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences like case studies, intro videos, and much more. Stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by 50%. Add Pathmonk to your website in seconds. Let the AI do all the work. You can get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing and sales as usual. Check us on pathmonk.com. Welcome to today's episode. Let's talk about today's guest. We have Shiro from Concept3D, Director of Demand Generation out there with them. How are you doing today, Shiro?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you on. I'm sure our listeners are tuning in, wondering what Concept3D Inc. is all about. So let's start it off with that. Shiro, in your own words, can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure. So we are a B2B tech SaaS company that creates interactive maps, virtual tours, and online event calendars for higher ed. We have a few other solutions also brewing that we're excited to launch in the next year or so. But mainly we help higher ed institutions, especially the marketing, communications, and enrollment marketing teams, do a better job. And we help assist them to make more efficient use of their time, less headaches, and we really help to encourage more enrollment, better reach, and better user experience for students, parents, and constituents.
Definitely awesome to hear that. And so that our listeners could get a good understanding of your company, what are some key problems that you solve for clients?
Yeah, so we have several solutions, so it's hard to hone in on one exact thing, but I can just give you a quick rundown here. So our online events calendar, which is called Localist Events, helps centralize a lot of calendars into one place. So as you can imagine, higher ed has tons of different departments, clubs, schools, social organizations, and they often all have their own calendars, which is not centralized. And it's a big burden on the brand as well as on the IT team who has to manage all those calendars. And we help bring all those calendars into one place. So that's one of the main pain points we solve with our calendar. And then with our interactive map and our virtual tour, we really help create a better virtual experience of campus, both in person, on foot, as well as from a bird's eye view of campus. That helps everything from a student before they apply to institution all the way through to their first day of class, where they can use their interactive map to find the best route to their first class, or to the dorm, or to their dining hall. So we really help upscale and make that experience as a student much better in the digital realm.
All right, awesome to hear that. And so then, who would be your ideal ICP then?
Yeah, we're really targeting marketing communications or enrollment marketing folks in higher ed. So they usually fit within a marketing or communications department, and we're really targeting someone who handles the website, who also has a stay in communications of the campus that's outward facing. So again, related to website, and then someone who's also in charge of student success as well, because usually all those things are tied together.
Okay, awesome. Great. And so how would somebody typically find out about you guys? Is there a top client acquisition channel?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked this, because if you didn't know, I was actually interviewed on this podcast at the start of 2022. So it's been a little over a year and a half. And my answer to this, I can't quote it, was probably around referrals and word of mouth. But I can confidently say, by looking at a lot of the self-attribution answers, is that it shifted from referrals and word of mouth now to really our content is doing well, because we get a lot of results that say it was Google or search or a specific blog or a webinar. So I think our content and our organic search has been performing really well now. And I'm really happy to say that.
Definitely. I mean, like you mentioned, you were on here on 2022. And now you're on here again, and it's a pleasure to have you on. I know you started a podcast of your own. Well, how did you do that? How did you come about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started a podcast called The Higher Ed Demand Gen back in, I think the first episode was launched in August of 2022, and we are at episode 79 today. So we'll definitely hit 100 here in the next few weeks. And yeah, I started the podcast because like Pathmonk is doing, I thought it was a great opportunity to have our ICP or our ideal customer persona on the podcast, right? Where we can quickly learn about those pain points. We can make a connection with someone and understand their industry and their day-to-day. And then ultimately we can take that content and create a piece of valuable content for the community that we sell into. And that's why I totally believe that every B2B brand should be at least testing out a podcast and trying to launch one and get one started.
Definitely. Have you found that it was easy for you to start, or has there been any challenges along the way, Shiro?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I still would say that our podcast, The Higher Demand Engine, is not something that's overly produced. It's pretty much a one-person show right now. I have an editing team that helps me kind of clip up the episodes and organize them, which is extremely helpful. But yeah, I mean, we started low lift. I don't even think I had this microphone before I started my first recording, but really just jumping in and getting through the first 5 episodes is, I think, really key. I think there's a statistic out there that, like, I think 80% of podcasts, it might be even higher, 80% of podcasts don't get through the first 7 episodes. So really, like, if you don't even get through the first 7 episodes, you're doing yourself a disservice because you haven't given yourself a chance yet. So I think when you're getting started, at least know who you want in your audience, the premise of what you want the show to be about, and then make sure that you commit to like at least 10 episodes to see how it goes. And I think the rest will fall into place.
Definitely awesome to hear that from you. Well, let's switch gears a little bit, Shiro, a little bit, and talk about you as a leader. What are some key tasks you focus on your day work now?
I'm sorry, the day-to-day you said?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, in the day-to-day, I really look at things probably more like the quarter or weekly basis. So I usually outline 3 main things I want to complete through the week, each week, right? Things that are not a part of my day-to-day. And I check back in on them every Friday to see where I've gotten with them. And hopefully one of those things that I'm focusing on the week will tie back to something I'm trying to accomplish in the quarter. So everything's kind of related to an ongoing plan. When it comes to my day-to-day, it's really about a lot of planning. So every morning I create my schedule for the day. I block out what the times I have for meetings and see where I can fit my weekly goal into my day-to-day around completion. And some things are just, one-offs that I try to complete as a daily task. But a lot of things I try to time block for the weekly goals that I have. Otherwise, you get caught up in things that I don't think actually drive a lot of impact, and you want to stay focused on the things that do. So kind of a flip side to your question there. But yeah, I like to try and implement things from my weekly goals into my day-to-day when I have a good chunk of time blocked.
Definitely. That's awesome. That's really important. I mean, a lot has changed in the past year since we spoke to you. So definitely see that it's driving towards something that's awesome.
Real quick, I was wondering if we could just go back to the podcast topic real quick about like, here's like a couple other things that I wanted to talk about. So do you mind if I continue there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned, when you start a podcast, you can create valuable content to your ICP community, right? So the people you sell to, you can have on your podcast to create content that will actually add value to your community. So I think that's one really valuable thing about starting a podcast. Another is you get to connect with thought leaders in your industry, right? Or thought speakers in your industry. So like now I have 80 episodes published, right? So now I have 80 people I can go to and be like, hey, like, how's it going, Tom or Brad? And as we come up with content pillars or content topics we want to write about, I can now reach out to those 80 people and be like, hey, do you want to collaborate on this piece of content? Whether that's a webinar or a written form content or a research article. I have all these people I can go to that I've networked with through the podcast that we can co-collab on content. And any B2B marketer knows, especially if you're starting up, is if you're a small company, you have no clout in the game, right? You have no authority. Like if you're just publishing content from a company perspective, people need to trust you, and you haven't given them the time to build trust. But if you are able to partner with your thought leaders that you've met through the podcast in developing content, you've automatically upped your game in terms of building authority with whatever subject you want to talk about, publish about, have a live event around. And so that's really, really influential. And this is something I wasn't expecting from the podcast. My goal was really to create valuable content, but now I can like, it's 3x that, because now I have this network of people I can reach out to partner on content with, have webinars with, and it's really, really good. And then I'll add another point to this. I know ABM is a really hot topic right now, right? So account-based marketing, I think it's funny that it's come back as well, but account-based marketing, I don't know a B2B company who's not focused in on this right now, right? Whether if you're a large company and you're trying to target a huge like enterprise company, or if you're a smaller company like us trying to target, hundreds of specific companies, the podcast can actually really help with your ABM outreach as well. So if you partner with your sales team in who you're contacting from an ABM perspective, right? Maybe your sales team has a list of 100 accounts that they're really focusing in on. A good way to shift your podcast to an ABM strategy is now you target someone from those 100 accounts to have on your podcast. And then that creates an opportunity for me as a host to be like, hey, like, who can I talk to from your company about this solution or this pain point? And maybe I'll get a contact. And at the end of the day, whether or not, that conversation about asking for a good contact or someone that I can reach out to does not go well, you've now at least educated and informed one person from your account list, who's your ICP, about your company, your brand, and your solution. So even if that's the highest bar you get from a podcast guest, I think that's a win-win. And so that kind of goes to my next point. Like, our podcast hasn't blown up, and I think that if you do launch your own podcast, I wouldn't be really harsh or critical on whether or not your podcast is getting thousands of downloads each month, right? At the end of the day, if you use it as a tool to connect with your community that you're selling into, and you're able to connect with have one-on-one conversations with your ideal customer profile, I think just that alone is valuable. And you can actually create your podcast episodes, like the video clips you'll probably take from this on Pathmonk, and clip it up into these little small segments that you can use on your social strategy. You can run paid advertisements behind them. We've had really good results with LinkedIn ads, specifically on thought leadership ads. So now you have content you could push at the top of the funnel towards your ABM lists and put some paid spend behind it. So it really it's like this one thing that you do, a podcast, that creates so many other content asset types and opportunities to connect with your community and the ideal customer profile. So I'll leave it there if you have any questions.
No, I love what you said, right? I think one of the main things that we haven't tried, and I think you just pointed something out really important for us here as well, is once you make those connections with the people that we're inviting here for the podcast, at one point, webinars are as well as a great strategy to bring up and have some thought leaders there as well. Yep. I think that we haven't exploited, and I think that's something that we could do as well, because at the end of the day, we're bringing kind of like, it's a marketing world that we talk about here, what we want our listeners as well. So I think that's a really good strategy there as well. And ABM, well, like you mentioned, right, it's there. Getting in contact with that specific person and big company, that's crucial, right? In today's world, I think everybody gets bombarded by hundreds of emails every day. So, a little bit something different to crack that door open, really good for that sales team. So thanks for that sharing that with us, Shiro, here.
No, yeah. And if you're worried about your content, just think about whatever's valuable for your community, like topics, conversations, questions, anything that's valuable for your community. I really believe in ethical marketing, I call it, but it means adding value as a marketer, adding value to the community that you serve.
Definitely do appreciate that. Well, Shiro, just a couple of questions here left then before we end up our episode. going back to Concept3D, what is one single thing that your company is focused on at the moment the most?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's our company as a whole. I mean, it would just be to create more value for the higher ed industry, which we're trying to do through launching new solutions and adding new features to our existing solutions. So, we want to help people in their roles today in higher ed, especially marketing communications, do their jobs better, do it faster, more efficiently, and represent their school and their brand better. So we're continuing to make investments there.
Awesome. Great to hear that. And lastly, I mean, you have a lot of experience, right? Moved from one spot and now doing a podcast as well. But what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were to restart your journey as a marketer today?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if this has been a huge roadblock for me, but I feel it and I would say just push through the imposter syndrome. I think a lot of people feel this as marketers, and it's okay to feel it. Like, even with the podcast, like I had imposter syndrome, but it's okay. I think we all feel it, and you just got to get through it and understand that you're providing value to the community that you serve, or to the community as a whole. And so just hold on to that belief and push through.
Well, Shiro, thanks a lot for being on the show with us today. I do want to give you the last word. If someone forgets everything about the interview today, what is that one thing they should remember about your company?
Yeah, at Concept3D, we make interactive maps, virtual tours, and online event calendars for higher ed that make that marketing communications experience for the student much better.
Definitely. Hey, well, thank you so much, Shiro, for being on with us again. I do appreciate it. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and looking forward to our next episode at Pathmonk Presents. Thanks a lot, Shiro.
Thanks, Ernesto.